Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth, the Education Coordinator for Marlene's Market and Deli. Tonight's special guest that we have with us, we have Dan Chapman. He is the CEO and founder of Red Remedies, and he is all the way near Chicago. So we're really grateful to have him tonight with the time difference. And he is speaking on the topic of holistic approaches for high uric acid levels and joint issues. So we are really grateful to have this joint support tonight with Dan. Thank you so much, Dan.
Oh, my great pleasure. Happy to be here with you all. All right, I'm going to share my screen and we'll get right after the topic for tonight. Thanks so much for having me. As I get into our topic about joint health and uric acid levels and things like that, I'm going to spend just a quick minute and tell you a little bit about myself, and then we're going to jump right into the topic. And as you said, Elizabeth, I'm happy to make this as interactive as everybody would like to make it. So feel free to throw your questions in the chat. But just a little bit about myself and background. So I've got a picture of my mom and dad on the screen here. My parents started a health food store in the Chicago area in 1961. And so I've been in the natural food industry really my entire life. I say that anybody that started a health food store in the 60s, you were either a hippie or you were sick. And I'll just let you, my mom was in the sick side of that category, but whatever got us in, I'm really, really happy that I've been able to have parents that I did that just raised my brothers and I with some remarkably healthy food. And so my parents opened a health food store, like I said, in 1961 in the Chicago area because my mom was pretty sick and she changed her life health-wise by changing her diet, integrating herbs and nutrition. And so I grew up with a mom who was really passionate about food and health and nutrition. And I fell in love with it myself and worked at Sunrise through my early adult career. I still own Sunrise Health Foods today, so I know very much what it's like to stand in the aisles and help countless customers solve all kinds of different health challenges. And honestly, it was out of this experience that I started Red Remedies in 2005. At Red Remedies, we are a company that specializes in designing herbal formulas to solve a variety of different health challenges. And I will tell you, I love the power of a well-designed formula to solve a health issue much more than a single ingredient. I just find that when we get that perfect formula put together, we can make some real headway helping individuals with different health challenges. And we're going to cover some of those tonight for sure. What's one of the things that about us at Red Remedies is our name Red is actually a word from the early 1800s. It means to put in order. And that's our mission at Red Remedies is to help people put their lives in order as it relates to health. And there's a couple of things that are really important to us as a company at a high level. The first of which is results. Everything that we do here is hyper focused on designing formulas that work. I've got a picture of Stacy Littlefield in the screen here. Stacy's been with me at Red Remedies since day one. She has an undergrad degree in biology and a master's degree in herbal medicine. And I will tell you, Stacy, is one of the things at Red that really sets us apart is that we have somebody with a master's degree that leads our formulation design and the procurement of the different herbs and nutrients that we use in our formulas. And I've had people ask, well, how is that really all that different? And it's really a whole lot like when you go to an amazing five-star restaurant and you have a master chef that has been schooled on herbs and cooking and putting different things together. And the way that that food tastes, well, it's very much the same when it comes to herbal medicine. Stacy has a lifetime of education, sourcing the right herbs, the right quality, the right parts of those plants, and the right amounts in the formulas in order to get the results that we're after. So we're really grateful to have Stacy on board. When we put formulas together, and you're going to hear some of this tonight as we talk through some of these different topics, is we design products that are going to nourish, support, and create balance. And so if we think about how do we help the body that has a health issue get better, What I want to do is I want to nourish your body. And the reason I talk about it that way is I can help push and stimulate your body too. And I can use natural ingredients and herbs and things to push and stimulate. I believe that nourishing is a much better, longer lasting way to make healthy changes in the body. And so we'll give some examples of the ways that we nourish the body rather than push and stimulate it with the different products that we'll talk about tonight. And then we want to take a step back and support all of the systems involved in that targeted issue because our body is whole and connected, right? We don't focus on just one area of the body. We know that if anything happens anywhere in your body, that will have a ripple effect throughout the whole body. And so while we might, target the joints in our topic a little bit later tonight, we want to step back and deal with something like circulation as well, because we know that without healthy circulation, we can't help your joints. And so we're always stepping back and supporting the different systems involved in that targeted issue. And then ultimately, it's our goal to create balance in the body. Balance in your body is perfection. It doesn't get any better than that. A body that's in balance doesn't have symptoms. You don't have disease. You've got tons of energy physically and mentally. And I've had a few people say, well, hey, Dan, is balance really all we can get? I want more than balance. I want peak performance. I want optimal health. But I will let you know that we'll never be able to achieve peak performance if our body systems and organs are not in balance. So that's what we have to achieve in order to really live optimal life. The second thing that's really important to us as a company is our purity promise. And you all can get more details on this on our website at redremedies.com/purity. We've got a nice summary there of the testing that we do, as well as a white paper. If you want to read all of the details on what we do for testing, you can download that white paper. I think last I looked, it's about 23 pages long. And the bottom line here is that we source herbs from all over the world. Because we need herbs that come from different healing cultures around the world, but we want to make sure that while we are building relationships with the people we source these herbs from, we want to hold them accountable. And so we have a very well-defined purity promise that's managed by a third-party lab to ensure that everything that we do at Red Remedies delivers a product that's clean and pure and is going to get the results that we're after. And then the third thing I'll just mention is family. We're a family-owned company based here just south of Chicago. And we're really proud of that fact and love the idea that family business can survive and do well and put mission in front of everything else that we do, right? Just like Marlene's. And so that's one of the things that we love about that is our structure mirrors most of our customers, which are wonderful family-owned health food stores around the country. So let's dive into our topic tonight. Everything we're going to talk about tonight really is going to cover different types of pain. And so one of the things that I want to start with as we're talking about pain is this saying from traditional Chinese medicine that I think is really pretty profound, but it also helps us understand one of the things that's really important if there's any place or anything in our body where we are experiencing pain. And so this statement goes like this: if there is free flow, there is no pain. If there is pain, there is no free flow. Now you got to think a little bit about what are we trying to communicate here in the statement. But in short, what it means is that if you have a circulatory issue, you will result in having inflammation and then pain in that area of your body. And on the flip side, if you have pain anywhere in your body, that means that you have a circulatory problem that is causing that. And so in the products and the issues that we're going to deal with tonight, you're going to hear me talk a little bit about circulation. And that is a key to what we're doing here. If we have a problem in the structure of our body, it's essential that we restore circulation to that area of our body so then we can provide nutrients and oxygen and blood supply so we can then heal that area of the body. And that will also result in a reduction in the inflammation that you're feeling, as well as the pain that you're feeling. And so, so often when we think about pain, we want something to deaden that pain. We want an anti-inflammatory. And so we might, run to the pharmacy and get that anti-inflammatory. But what we really need to do in the body is figure out why is the pain there and address that. And circulation is a really big component of that. And so that's one of the things that we're going to cover that might not be so common sense to all of us when we're thinking about the fact that, oh, my knee hurts or my hip hurts or my foot hurts. Circulation is something that we need to address as well. So first of all, I want to talk about different types of pain that somebody might experience. And so gout is one of those types of pain. And so what is gout, first of all? Gout is an overproduction or a high level of something known as uric acid in the body. And when your body cannot deal with or eliminate an excess amount of uric acid, your body has to deal with it some way. And so what we do is we eliminate it from our blood supply by putting it into the joints, where it then crystallizes, creates a lot of inflammation and a lot of pain. And so that is the symptom of gout. What we're going to talk about tonight really is uric acid, because uric acid is what will cause that when we get uric acid in excess. But first of all, let's figure out, where does uric acid come from? First of all, about 1/3 of the uric acid in our body comes from an external source. In other words, it's going to be something that we eat. And so foods that are high in a protein known as purines, purines convert to uric acid in the body. So these foods that are high in this protein known as purines are red meats, organ meats, pork, lamb, wild game, seafood, especially shellfish, and then alcohol as well, predominantly beer, but all alcohol is going to be high in purines. And then I think the main part that most people are not familiar with, when I talk to people about gout, they're generally aware of meat and seafood and alcohol. But one of the biggest contributors is actually high fructose corn syrup. And so one of the other things that I know is we have diets in this country that are extremely high in sugar. And one of the other things that most people don't know is they say, well, I stay away from high fructose corn syrup, Dan. But if you're eating table sugar, so just regular sugar, about half of that will convert immediately to high fructose corn syrup in the body, which is then going to also translate into high uric acid levels. And so I find that sugar is one of the things that most people are not aware of if they're struggling with high uric acid, that absolutely needs to be paid attention to. So then the other 2/3 is actually comes from internal sources, from inside the body. And so, we produce uric acid in the body simply with our natural process of breaking down, cells and tissue. Because if you think about, well, our body.
Oh, there we are. Hello. Oh, hey, Dan, I think you're muted.
Yeah, so I apparently we lost you for half a second there. I guess that's one of the downsides to doing a remote lecture, but we're back on track. I'm going to share my screen again, and then we will continue.
Sounds good. Thank you. So, technology, right?
Technology is it can be wonderful. So we were talking about the external or the internal sources of uric acid. And I was saying that it comes from the breakdown of cells and tissue as our tissues go through a normal life cycle within the body. And so part of that natural breakdown then produces the production of this uric acid in the body. It also can come in the body from specific drugs that you might be consuming as our body metabolizes those medications. And so just so we're aware of those, probably the most common ones would be aspirin and different diuretics, as well as beta blockers. And so just understand that some drugs can contribute to high levels of uric acid. And I find that this next slide is also a little bit helpful just to help people understand that while we know that a third of uric acid can be produced from external and two-thirds can be produced from internal sources, what's interesting is while that ratio is one-third and two-thirds, when it comes to high levels of uric acid in the body, the truth is that the overproduction really only contributes to about 5 or 10% of the issues that we might be experiencing when it comes to that symptom of gout. Whereas under excretion, which means your body's inability to keep up with the elimination of uric acid, really contributes about 80 to 90% of the problems that people are having. And so I want to focus on that because that's what we're going to spend most of our time talking about, is how do we help our body excrete levels of uric acid when it gets too high so we can maintain that balance there. Uric acid, by the way, is not the enemy. We do need uric acid in the body. We just don't want too much. We want a balance of uric acid. And so I find that this is also some helpful information for people. We find that based on statistics, about 3.9% of people, or 1 in 25, will experience a symptom of gout sometime within the course of a year, which is a lot more people than I would normally think about. But there are a lot of folks that do experience high levels of uric acid and the symptom of gout to go along with that. But there's another 21% of people. So basically another 1 out of 5 that have high levels of uric acid, but they don't ever experience any symptoms from that. What's important to understand about that is that high uric acid in the body can still cause some damage to the body, even though you may not be experiencing the symptoms or feeling it. And so how would I know if it's high? The only way to know would be to have your levels tested. And I do think that's a good idea for all of us to do, but especially if you have some of the other risk factors that might go along with this. And that's why I wanted to share this slide. And so the two main risk factors that might cause you to want to have your uric acid levels checked a little more frequently is if you have blood sugar issues of any kind. And I know there's a lot of us that struggle with blood sugar. So certainly if you're a diabetic, but any type of blood sugar imbalances at all, that's a contributing factor. And also any cardiovascular issues. So if you're in any of those two camps and you've never had uric acid levels checked, even if you've never experienced any issues like gout, it might be a good idea just to have your levels checked next time you go to the doctor. Or I know you can even get a home testing kit relatively inexpensively. And so why is that also important? One of the things that we find just looking at the statistics with high uric acid levels is that it is a contributor to about 39% of all cardiovascular disease as a whole. And we also find that people that have high blood pressure, about 90% of those individuals also have high uric acid levels. And so again, especially if you have blood sugar issues or cardiovascular issues, even if you don't have symptoms associated with high uric acid, I encourage you to go get your levels checked. So let's say we're in some of those camps. What can we do naturally to help the body maintain a healthy level of uric acid? And that's what we're going to focus on here. And there's 2 ingredients that we like to start with. We start with tart cherries, and this is a relatively common ingredient that it seems like a lot of people have some understanding that tart cherries seems to have a positive impact on balancing uric acid levels. And it does. And the way that tart cherry has that positive impact is it actually interrupts that conversion rate from purines, the protein in those different foods that we might consume, or the proteins in sugar. It interrupts that conversion rate from those purines to uric acid. So we simply produce less uric acid when we are also consuming tart cherries at the same time. One of the things that we have found is that when we add quercetin, so quercetin is a natural bioflavonoid, and so quercetin is found actually in tart cherries. It's also found like in the white rind part of like your oranges and grapefruit and lemons. So quercetin as a bioflavonoid, when we combine it with tart cherries, it does a significantly more effective job of interrupting that conversion rate than if we just use cherries alone. So when we add the tart cherries and quercetin together, we can really make a nice impact in reducing the production of uric acid in the body. It's important to understand that these natural ingredients will not stop the production of uric acid, and we don't want to do that. Again, uric acid in and of itself is not the enemy. We just don't want too much. And so these ingredients do a nice job of helping to balance what is being produced in the body. But the big issue here is the kidneys, because if you remember the slide we just reviewed a moment ago, about 80 to 90% of the issue of having high uric acid is because we cannot get rid of it fast enough or effectively in the body, and it's the kidneys that are responsible for the elimination of high uric acid levels. And so again, if you think about the statistics I said about high blood pressure, we can understand that the kidneys are also involved in the regulation of blood pressure. And it's why these two issues can be so closely tied together. And so what we want to do is we want to nourish your kidneys. I do not want to use a diuretic here. A diuretic will push or stimulate. And while that might have some positive effect, as I look at the body, I don't want to push or stimulate an organ that is already stressed. And so this gets back to our formulation philosophy at Red Remedies to nourish the target. And so if we're dealing with high uric acid levels, our target is the kidneys. And we're going to nourish and kind of feed the kidneys. So we're using herbs that are tonic-like to the kidneys so they can have the energy to do what I believe they were created to do in the first place, which is to regulate uric acid levels. And so the two herbs that we use for that is boerhavia, which is an Ayurvedic herb or an Indian herb, and couchgrass, which is a European herb. And so that combination of boerhavia and couchgrass do a wonderful job of nourishing and kind of revitalizing the health and the function of the kidneys. And we find again that they're able, with that energy, it's like eating a good meal, the kidneys can start to do the work that they're created to do again. And there's one more ingredient that I like to use for people that are working to regulate uric acid levels, and that is ginger. And this gets back to that quote that I started with about circulation. Ginger will have two primary impacts for people that are struggling with uric acid levels. And that first is to spark circulation. We want to get circulation moving in the body, because if we can help to spark circulation, we can help get that uric acid out of the body more quickly and efficiently. Ginger also plays another really nice secondary role here, and that's to help maintain healthy inflammation levels. And we know that ginger has been used for that for many, many years and is very effective there. And so we put all of those ingredients together in a formula that we call Gout. It's a 2 capsule-a-day product, very, very easy to use. And we find that it tends to be very effective for people to help maintain those healthy levels of uric acid. And so there is a dosing here that we can use initially. The first time we're starting to use the product at 2 capsules twice a day for about 3 days or so, and then 2 a day after that. And it is a safe product to use long-term for those that need that longer-term support, because we're nourishing the kidneys and not using a diuretic. Generally, you would not want to use a diuretic for long-term use. So this is going to do a nice job for those folks that need to maintain those healthy uric acid levels. All right, let's transition and talk about the joints still, but now we're going to talk about joints and how do we maintain healthy joints for the rest of us that are not struggling with uric acid levels, but we also want to maintain healthy joints. And we've got a couple of products that we simply call Joint Health. And the main active ingredient that we use is one, honestly, I'm really excited about. When you've been in the natural food industry as long as I have, we get excited sometimes about some silly things. And so I'm excited here literally about an egg. But not the whole egg. There's just a part of the egg. And so what we use in our joint health products is the eggshell membrane. And so when you crack an egg and you see that thin little membrane inside, that's the part of the egg that we're using. So we don't use the egg itself. That's used in a baking product. We don't use the shell. It's just that thin little membrane inside. And so what's so special about that membrane? first of all, you can even kind of see in the picture here, and we've all experienced that membrane is very, very thin and very strong. And so what we find is that eggshell membrane contains everything in it naturally that your joint structure needs in full to be healthy and strong. So that eggshell membrane will help protect the cartilage, the tendons, the ligaments, synovial fluid. It'll help maintain healthy inflammation levels. It's a really powerful food. And so what is inside this membrane that makes it so special? Well, a lot of the, I'll say, ingredients that you might find uh, isolated and then put together in another joint type of a product, but here they're all naturally occurring. So NEM has glucosamine and chondroitin and hyaluronic acid and sulfur-based amino acids, as well as collagen in 3 different types. And so what's important to understand about natural eggshell membrane is we are not isolating these different nutrients that I just mentioned. They are all naturally occurring. And part of what's powerful about natural eggshell membrane as a food is because those ingredients are all naturally occurring and we don't alter them and we don't change them, that our body is able to utilize them in a really powerful way. So the only processing that we do with that membrane is something known as hydrolysis, because the membrane doesn't break down overly easy. If you were just to peel some of that eggshell membrane out of the eggs yourself and chew it up, which you're welcome to do, it's good for you, it won't hurt you, but our digestive system doesn't break that membrane down very effectively. So the process of hydrolysis is just using water and pressure, no chemicals whatsoever. We don't isolate or leave anything behind. We want that whole membrane intact. We just use some water and pressure to help break it down so our digestive system can utilize it effectively. And what we find is that our full clinical dose, that's supported by lots of research at this point, is simply 500 milligrams on a daily dose. And so 500 milligrams in our Joint Health Original equates to simply 1 capsule a day. So this is a joint health product where you don't need to take 3 or 4 or 6 pills a day for many, many, many months to get results. It's simply 1 capsule a day is the full clinical dose. And so what did we find in the research on natural eggshell membrane? We've broken the results basically down into 3 different categories. So we'll talk first about pain, and then we'll talk about stiffness or flexibility, and then we'll talk about cartilage specifically. And so if we look simply related to pain, in that 500 milligram daily dose, we can have a clinically significant impact in as little as 7 days. And if we push that out for 30 days, we see about a 75% reduction in the pain that you're experiencing. And understand that this pain reduction is not pain reduction of a drug that is just masking something. It's pain reduction because of the healing process that's taking place within the joint. So really quite significant results that we can get there. And again, 1 capsule a day. If we look at stiffness, and we know that if we have some pain in a knee or a hip or whatever joint it might be, there's always some stiffness that comes along with that. And so we find that we can get clinically significant results here in as little as 4 days. So less stiffness, much better flexibility. When you're getting up after sitting for a little while, you don't have the same stiffness that you would experience otherwise. And again, if we push this out a month, the results are really quite dramatic. And then when we look at cartilage, which is one of the main things, of course, that people are thinking about when we're thinking about our joints, there's 2 things that the research is showing when it comes to cartilage. One, it is showing that we can help to repair and regenerate some of that cartilage tissue. But one of the most significant things, honestly, that we have found in natural eggshell membrane is the only natural ingredient that has started to show that not only can we help doing some healing and some repairing, but we can actually stop that cartilage from breaking down in the first place. And so that's some newer research that was just published over the course of the last couple of years, where they took some younger folks that were healthy, that were not experiencing any joint pain. They put them through some very rigorous exercise that, of course, causes some joint pain. And then they did all kinds of different tests on them and found that we could reduce the markers and the enzymes produced in the body that actually break down cartilage during exercise. And so if you think about that, when we exercise, the part of the point of exercise is that our body does wear out a little bit, right? We lift weights and we tear some muscle, and then it's the healing process of repairing that muscle that allows our muscles to grow and to get bigger. But what we don't want to have happen in our cartilage is for that cartilage tissue to break down, because cartilage does come back very, very slowly. And part of the reason for that is our joints are what we call avascular, meaning that we don't have blood supply to the center of our joints. And so that's part of the reason it's so important to do something preventatively for our joints, is because once you have a problem, to reverse that is going to take a long period of time because we don't have blood supply going there. And so we need to make sure that we increase circulation around that joint tissue, but it's impossible to increase blood supply to the center of that joint, if you will. And so we want to make sure that we're doing a good job of taking care of the joints. Another interesting thing that I find that most people don't think about when it comes to their joints, because I know usually we have this mindset of, well, I'll take care of it, when I get a little bit older, or I'll take care of it once I start to show some signs or some symptoms that maybe something is wrong. But when it comes to our joints, there is no leading indicator that a joint issue is coming. The first time that you know you have a joint problem is when there's pain. And when there's pain, there's already a joint problem. And so I do find this is one of the things that I find is really important for us to make sure that we're doing something preventatively to make sure that we have healthy joints well into our later years in life. Because, of course, once we reduce our ability to be mobile and getting around is when we start to have all kinds of other health issues that come along. So natural eggshell membrane is proven to stop the breakdown of that cartilage in the first place. And then I'll just spend a quick moment on this slide. We have two formulas on your shelves at Marlene's. We have Joint Health Original, which is the 500 milligrams of natural eggshell membrane, that clinical dose that I just talked about. But we also have a Joint Health Advanced formula. This one is a 2 a day instead of a 1 a day. And so what do we give you in that extra capsule is a couple of important ingredients, especially for somebody who maybe is a little bit later on in life, and we have some trouble today, and we just want to make sure that we're taking care of it as quickly as possible. You still get that full dose of natural eggshell membrane, but we've also added some boswellia. This is a patented extract of a wonderful herb that comes from, it's also known as frankincense. And this extract contains both the water-soluble and the fat-soluble components of boswellia. And that's important because the water-soluble components will absorb very quickly and give you a nice anti-inflammatory impact very, very quickly. The fat-soluble components will absorb over time, and so it acts like a bit of a time-release anti-inflammatory as well. So Boswellia PS does a really wonderful job of reducing that inflammation that you might be experiencing. And then, of course, we combine that with turmeric, which many of us are very, very familiar with. The extract that we're using here in turmeric is a wonderful water alcohol extract. And we've chosen that one specifically because it also has the ability to work on circulation, right? So back to the whole issue, if we are focused on our joints, we need to make sure that we do everything we can to restore circulation around that joint area, because again, they are avascular. We have to do everything we can to restore that circulation to that area of the body. And then we also have some antioxidants in Joint Health Advanced, which are going to protect the structure of that joint tissue. So then just in summary, natural eggshell membrane, a 500 milligram clinical dose, 4 to 10 day results, and it gets better the longer we use it. Made completely here in the US, and it's a clean manufacturing process, truly whole food, and supports the entire joint structure of cartilage, tendons, ligaments, that synovial fluid, which is that fluid that provides that cushion in the joint, as well as taking care of inflammation. And again, I'm really excited that the newer research shows that not only can help once we have an issue going on, but it's also going to prevent a problem coming into the future. So very easy products to use. 1 capsule a day for Joint Health Original and 2 capsules a day for Joint Health Advanced. Well, Elizabeth, this has been a wonderful time. I am going to stop the sharing from here, and I'm going to answer any questions that you all might have.
Fabulous presentation, Dan. Thank you.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah. And that,
opening the
and that
chat
new
here.
product is just sounds very excellent.
Well done. Well done.
Yes, yes. I was hearing you at the same time I'm reading it in the chat. That's beautiful.
I am like super thrilled for I love your curcumin T4
Yes.
products, and then also the sinus ones. Um the sinus one got me through a really, really bad sinus infection. And of course I was following, um other things that was told by my doctor, but that was that as soon as I added that to my regimen, it was pretty much on its way out. So thank you for all that you provide with your products.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me on tonight. This was great to do.
So Dan, I have a
Yeah.
question. What uric acid level are you looking for? You talk about people having a high uric acid level.
Yeah,
What?
so generally there, what we're looking for, is about nothing over a 5. And I didn't go a lot into the testing, tonight, but it's also important to test really kind of first thing in the morning. Uric acid levels tend to peak around 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm not suggesting you have to wake up at 5 o'clock to test, but first thing in the morning when you get up, do that test before you're, up and about and having breakfast.
Right. So you just get your own test kit.
Yeah, I find that the test kits, honestly, they're about $100, but once you have the test unit, you don't ever have to buy that again. There's just little inserts, and it's kind of like a blood sugar test. You prick the finger, put a little blood on there, and within a second, you know your levels.
And so you've had good results with the Gouch product in lowering.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I sometimes have to be a little bit careful just on what I'm going to say as far as results, but I'll tell you, we've had this product up for 15 years, and it is an extremely effective product because of the way that it's designed.
Great questions.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a lot of pain in my knee, and it's found out that I have moderate arthritis. I also have a deteriorating or damaged meniscus. My blood sugars are great. I don't have any problems with, my A1C. Everything like that is great. But it's just, I don't know. I'm only 58, but I'm active. I like to hike. And just these past several months, I know Elizabeth, and I've just had so much severe pain in my right knee.
Hmm.
Since I don't have a uric acid and a blood sugar issue or anything like that, and for the most part, I eat healthy. I've cut ever since I've started having this inflammation. I have cut sugar out of my diet.
Yeah.
Never been much of a big alcohol drinker, but would this work for me? I mean, I'm just like looking for everything. I know about turmeric, and everything like that. So
Yep.
anything suggestions for something like this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would use the advanced formula just to get kind of the extra ingredients in there.
Okay.
And what it's going to do different than turmeric is turmeric. It actually doesn't provide any healing. Turmeric is a wonderful antioxidant and a wonderful anti-inflammatory. Now, if you give an antioxidant and anti-inflammatory, it will help your body do some of its healing on its own. But this is like the food for the joint. So
Okay.
natural eggshell membrane will do significantly more to kind of heal and repair that joint structure than turmeric ever will.
Okay. And I work there at Marlene's. So yeah,
Mhm.
I had no problem finding that.
Yep. Perfect. Yeah. And nothing wrong with taking your turmeric with it if you want to do that. But that's also part of the reason we added the boswellia and the turmeric to that advanced formula is we do, especially if you're somebody that is experiencing some pain like you are, we want that added anti-inflammatory impact.
And I do take, I mean, I put fresh turmeric root in my smoothies and
Yeah,
my
sure.
proteins, and I'm taking boswellia. I don't think it's from you guys, but I'm taking some boswellia
Sure.
as well. So this is
Perfect.
very informative. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Susan.
Mhm.
We got any more questions here? Don't be shy, folks. If you're not ready to unmute yourselves, you're more welcome to enter them in the chat box. I was on your website and I had seen that you also have joint support for pets with the NEM with the
Yes.
natural eggshell
Yeah.
membrane. Has
Yeah, that one is called Renew, RENU, and a wonderful product for, I mean, it's mostly dogs, that dogs that are going to be using that, but that product can honestly be used by any animal. And there's some incredible clinicals showing, what it does for animals, no different than it does for us humans. So absolutely, Renew for our furry friends.
Oh, that's interesting. I have a question about the pets. I have a grand puppy, or she's like a grand doggy, and she just had surgery for her, oh gosh, not her hip. I can't think of what it's called. Um, and it's totally I can't remember. Would that be something good for healing for something like that? She's only 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to do, that's the beautiful thing about natural eggshell membrane is really, it is an incredible food source. And I know that, in our normal diet, we're not eating, eggshell membrane, but it is a part of that food that is incredibly nutrient dense with these, ingredients that really feed our joints. And the research supports it. So absolutely give it a shot. The
What's
dosing
that
on the
called
back of
again?
that will be specific for the weight of the animal. And so
Mhm.
just use it according to the directions.
And what is that called again?
Renew,
Reading.
REN.
Okay.
Yep.
Mhm. Great.
Fantastic. Any other questions?
great questions. Don't be shy, folks. I don't see any questions on the live stream chat.
Okay.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
Elizabeth,
Hi, Mary.
Elizabeth, this is Mary. Hi, Elizabeth. I have a question. That would take an awful lot of membranes out of an awful lot of eggs, right? And so how do you, I mean, I'm picturing somebody cracking a gazillion eggs and then just saving the membrane part. How do you folks work this? How many eggs does it take to make one capsule of the membrane? So I'm gonna remute
Yeah,
myself.
that's
Thank you.
I appreciate the question. You're at home visualizing how in the world does this work, right? But I'll tell you, I've learned a lot about eggs in the last 20 years. And so in the baking industry, so when you walk down the aisle of a grocery store and you see a baked product, there's eggs in almost everything, right? In the aisles of a health or aisles of a grocery store in general, not much less a health food store. And so there are facilities that will crack the eggs, and that egg will then be used in that food product, whatever it may be, right? And so what we do is we put our facilities very close to these, they're literally called egg cracking facilities. And we take the eggshell itself and bring that immediately to our facility and start the processing. And so we use a product that would have been, I mean, the eggshells aren't going to be used otherwise. And so we're able to take that eggshell, of course, because it's a fresh egg, we need to process it very, very quickly. And what we do is we dry it, we crush it, and then put it through literally a series of wind tunnels that separate the membrane from the shell. And then we follow up with that process of hydrolysis after that, dry it and put it into that capsule. So I can't tell you off the top of my head exactly how many eggshell membranes, like how many eggs does it take to produce 500 milligrams, but it's quite a few.
Right. And your eggs that you folks use probably are organic, right?
These would not be certified organic just because, to be honest, like physically, it's not possible because there are not like certified organic egg cracking facilities like that produce the supply that would be needed. And so what we do is we have a whole battery of tests that we run them through. Kind of goes back to the very beginning of my talk where I talked about our purity promise. And so we have a whole battery of tests that we run things through in order to ensure that the egg is of the quality that we're looking for. And that's kind of a short way. There is such a variety of quality of eggs out there. And so we can't guarantee that they're, all organic, but we can absolutely guarantee purity nonetheless.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you very much. This was great.
Yeah. And so just a little bit like we would have a zero tolerance for pesticides, zero tolerance for heavy metals, microbes, things like that. So a really kind of a narrow range of what we would accept.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure thing.
Mary.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Do you have another question?
It was the ACL. My daughter's dog tore her ACL and she had surgery. The dog had surgery. Okay.
Yep. And with the torn ACL, I mean, surgery is what you're going to have to do, right?
Yes.
But where eggshell membrane will come in, even for that animal, is for the healing and the strengthening process. And so, if there was a torn ACL, it's hard to say if that was purely injury or if there was some level of weakness that might have been associated, and of course, we probably will never know, but I would use Renew for that animal just to help strengthen the connective tissue for their joints.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Any more questions, folks? Well, we have wonderful Dan here, the CEO and founder of Red Remedies. I don't see any questions on Facebook. Well, I am just so grateful, Dan, for your time and energy tonight. Fabulous presentation. I'm so thrilled to also have more classes with Red Remedies. We have Stacy, actually, who you had mentioned earlier, February 6th. So that is actually already on our website. Put that up today. So feel free to sign up for that. It's going to be a wonderful class on heart health. And then we also have you for, let's see here, May 14th and June 6th. So
we've got a great lineup. Well, I'm excited to come back.
Me too. It's going to be excellent. I just throw that back in there.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you all for joining tonight. It's been a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
You too.
Have a great